All right, good morning, everyone. As Trish said, Leslie Schultz. This is my 20th year in the district, and this year I share responsibilities as the dean at Westergard Elementary, where I work with Jay. He's a first grade teacher there. He's also our right-hand man when myself and our principal are out of the building, so he's the admin in charge on those days. And he has the title of Deep Equity Coach. So in addition to being a dean at Westergard, I'm also a part-time dean at Billinghurst as well. So my foot is in both worlds, elementary and middle. Makes it fun. I need to first share, the first slide is our principal is Mrs. Katie Weir, and she's gone, and she'd be up here presenting with us because she had her first beautiful baby on April 17th, Lottie Lou. And so we've been working with Katie for 3 years up at Westergard, and it's exciting to see a new mom. So that's where she's at. You're going to see her in this video sharing kind of the processes and systems that have changed around our work in equity. This is our first year, really, and we're up here to talk to you about our experiences because as the Deep Equity Coach and the Dean, she said, you know what, I want you guys to lead our fundamental PL with our teachers. So moving on to the next slide, kind of the how and the why we decided to focus on equity. And when we looked at our school performance plan goals, after looking at our data profile and knowing what areas we really wanted to focus on in those subpopulations, we did some fundamental 3 cafe work where we were getting feedback from teachers and finding that building those cultural connection piece, that's where they wanted more support in. And so we decided, and instructional rounds feedback. That was the other third data point where we decided, you know what, we're going to focus on equity work, on delivering PL, and we worked together to do that. So it's been fun. How we did it, well, first of all, felt a little uncomfortable leading when I really didn't have a clear definition of equity. I don't know if you've ever kind of been grappling with that definition. And I thought, well, if I don't even know really concrete definition, how can I lead professional learning for the staff? And a little uncomfortable, Mr. Colbert here, having that training already. So I attended Equity 101. Anybody ever attended that class? Wow, a lot of you out there. It is, I can't say enough about that class. It was amazing because not only did it help me understand more about what it is to have an equitable educational environment, but had no idea, and I don't know how many of you can attest with that, that it would challenge me and my own personal biases that I had no idea I had. So not only did it kind of transform my thinking, because again, equity is not a strategy. We're not going to be able to give teachers strategies. It's not a checklist. It's really a mindset. It's a belief. And so when we were going to deliver professional learning for our teachers, we both discussed how that experience changed us, and so we wanted to share with our teachers that same experience, like model it. Certainly can't do as well as Equity 101, even though we did solicit the Equity and Diversity Department. I want to give a shout out to them because they're so willing to come to your school sites and help and support, and for us to deliver professional learning, they came the first time when we started exploring our own identity, which is kind of the work that we did when we started our training in the first place. And just understanding, like for me, I didn't realize, so my culture. I know it sounds weird, I don't know if anybody felt that way too, but it's like, what is my culture? So every night in Equity 101, I went through this, came home and processed in my mind, so we wanted to deliver that with the teachers in an SEL way. And we talk about connecting. I think it's really important that we feel connected with our staff. And so for us to have these, create this, what do they call it, the safe space or the brave space to have open and honest conversations, because it's about building capacity. We're not going to be experts, but we're trying to build our capacity. And so we wanted to create that safe space for teachers to be able to speak freely. Speak your truth, no judgments, and grow and build our capacity with one another. So that was our first session where we just identified our own kind of culture, background, experiences, and the staff loved it. We had an hour. The challenge was 4 PLs, 1 hour each. Here's our equity work. And so our goal mostly was to feel the staff had connected with each other, created that safe space second training we did was called, I have my notes here, Danger of a Single Story. And so we thought that was really important when we talk about sometimes we do, without even realizing it, create a single story for a child. And I want to share my daughter in elementary school. She was difficult, strong-willed, manipulator, very smart, and tough for teachers. And she's was in the office, the awful, call, oh, you need to come see your daughter in the office. And she identified herself as, I had to go to the office, It wasn't until middle school that she came home with tears in her eyes, and she says, Mom, I have a teacher who likes me. And I thought, wow. For her, in her mind and her experience, it wasn't until middle school she had a teacher who liked her. Whew. So we got to really work on not creating those single stories, even for our challenging kids. And that's where that connected piece is, and that's so important that we connect with them. The third training we did was more on color bravery instead of color blindness. And those of you in Equity 1 training know what that was like. And for me, I read an article that gave me a strategy. It's called the 3 Fs. It's on your handout. Some of our school and classroom applications, Jay is going to go into more detail, but personally, I felt that I used to think not seeing color was showing that I accepted all people as equal, and that we were all the same. Like just true confession, that was my belief. I found that believing that way limited my relationship with people. And now I feel that I can engage with people on a deeper level and interact fully and authentically in conversations with people. So it was that cultural awareness for me and openness to understand. So that strategy, that training, that third training, a teacher, that was the training we changed it into a circle. Instead of having them individual tables just like you are, we put the whole staff in a circle. And we just started talking about equity traps. Sometimes we just had to kind of identify equity traps. And we just kind of threw out some questions out there, and it was the staff, again, building that safe space, connecting with one another, not having judgments on one another, being able to speak our truths, which is really key when you deliver this type of PD. And we had some staff members say, you know what, I hear deficit language in the building. So they opened the conversation, and then I shared the 3 Fs as a strategy, because you don't want to call someone out on it, because they may not have that personal conviction or understanding. And they're going to take it kind of offensive. And we don't want to create any type of that in the staff building, right? And we want to create that working together, we're in this together, a team. But I said, this 3 Fs, there's no, you're sharing from your personal experience. And so then there was a staff member who left us feedback. Can you put that in the staff lounge, the 3 Fs, as a resource for us? So you can see right there, that's great evidence that the equity work that we're doing is working, because it's important work. And then the final one where we're going to do is taking that equity framework and really diving next year into looking at everything we do, all the processes, all the decisions through the framework mindset. That last slide was about you don't know what you don't know, and that's the power of professional learning. I think that's the power of you guys giving up a Saturday to come and just hear some more information, because until we hear it, until I went and took the Equity 101, I really didn't know what equity was, and I really didn't know how it would be powerful yet in a school site until I experienced it for myself. So kudos to all of you for being here, and maybe hopefully hearing some new stuff that you can take back to your school. The results from our PL, a couple of teachers, they would give us feedback, and so that was really powerful to know that they appreciated that safe space we were creating. All right, thanks for your attention.
All right. So we're going to be moving on to a video from our administrator, who once again is taking care of her child. And after that, I'll speak a little bit to application in the classroom.
We have to think about how is it influencing all members of our community and being inclusive in everything that we do. So one of the resources that I was directed toward that guides a lot of our practice and work this year is culturally proficient learning communities. And so one of the things that it talks about in the book is changes in structures, changes in practice, and changes in process. And when I think about parents and families at Westergard, there's such a great opportunity for embracing all the differences that my community has instead of trying to create this one solid funneled vision, and thinking about how we can tackle things that aren't working well in school by considering all experiences, backgrounds, all perspectives moving forward. One of the things it talks about in the book is we have to have an inside-out approach to cultural proficiency. And what that means is we have to allow ourselves to become students of our own assumptions. We have to allow ourselves to think about what are our biases, what are our assumptions that we have about ourselves, about others, about the context within which we work and live and interact with others, and then what do we do about that. So the first thing that talks about is changes in structure. So one of the biggest changes that we made in structure is thinking about classroom placement. And traditionally at Westergard, parents were allowed to choose which teacher they wanted for their child, and what inevitably happened is students of privilege had parents who had a request and followed the process, and then other students whose voice is also important and whose school experience is a valuable part of our day, they didn't have any voice from their parents or themselves as far as what they needed in the classroom the following year. And what happened is there was an imbalance in the classroom. So there would be one particular classroom with a large number of students who were served through special education, or a large number of students who were English language learners, or a large number of students whose parents were fully present in school and always volunteering and a part of what we do at Westergard. And it created a major inequity as far as the educational experience for each student in that grade level. And so we changed some of our structures to create a wider variety of students within each class so that we aren't tracking students or clustering students, but instead exposing them all to a wide variety of kids within their second grade, third grade, fourth grade class. Besides a change in structure is a change in practice. So one of the biggest changes in practice we had this year was developing alternative get-togethers. So if there was a class party closely aligned to a holiday or something along those lines, instead of alienating those students, we created an alternative activity for them that was meaningful and enriching. Similar to a book buddy experience, we paired them K-5, and we came up with games and puzzles. We had snacks, so all the traditional things you think of in a get-together, it just wasn't attached to a specific holiday or cultural celebration. And they felt they could be a meaningful part of what we do in school, and they weren't excluded in any way. And it also allowed them to maintain their attendance. So it's important for them to be in school. So we need to create things within school that allow them to be a part of our entire day, and not simply the parts that work for their cultural identity.
It felt good to have a party because we don't have many parties. Like, we usually have to go out while the other kids have parties, and then the other kids will talk about how fun the party was. And this time we actually had a party, so it was cool.
I liked all the activities that they were, and I liked, as like Kaylee said, how we got perfect attendance, and it was really fun.
It felt nice to have know that some other people had the same, and you weren't the only people who got picked up early and didn't participate.
The other part that you have is a change in structure, a change in practice, and then a change in process. And there are a lot of processes that we changed around school, or starting to change around school, and one of those is incorporating student voice more into what we do. So we created a student council that started with fourth grade and they rolled into fifth grade, and they had a lot of ideas about how to make our school a better place. So we're not just hearing from the parent and teacher stakeholders, but we're also hearing from their students.
So in student council, we did things like book drives or Thanksgiving to donate food to families who either don't have food to celebrate Thanksgiving. And also after the devastating hurricane of Hurricane Harvey, most schools were destroyed and lost most of their supplies. And so we set up a book drive so we can donate them to Texas.
Student council talked about the importance of including the entire school community when we're taking on a community-wide effort. So for example, We donated, or we organized a book drive for Hurricane Harvey victims. And so students brainstormed ways that other students could participate even if their family couldn't go out and buy books. So they talked about going through their classroom libraries to pick out books that maybe their class wasn't reading anymore, or they had multiple copies of, or if there were books in the library that we could retire and donate, so that it wasn't just relying on families who could afford to buy the books, but everybody could truly participate in the book drive process. And one of the biggest things that they brought up, which I thought was a beautiful definition of why it's important to think about equity for everybody, is students who have more socioeconomic privilege were able to participate in teacher appreciation events more so than students who weren't.
We made up ideas that didn't cost money because we kind of wanted to keep it simple but appreciate it in the same way.
We had a self-portrait contest, or a teacher portrait contest where students drew pictures of their favorite staff member, and then the student council voted on the winners. We had Wear Red for teachers. Student council decided that teachers like apples, and so they must love red. And so they all decided to wear red to honor teachers Thursday of Teacher Appreciation Week. We created an art project for every staff member that every student participated in. The student council helped with that. It was a fingerprint project. So not only was it a gift for every staff member, but it was also a personal representation from students as far as how much they care about their staff members, because they were putting their fingerprint on art. So it had a double meaning, and student council was really excited about that. And finally, I think part of our process that we're still continuing to refine is focusing on people first language and identifying people as who they are first, and then maybe an adjective or category to describe them second. So for example, instead of saying special education students, saying students who are serviced through special education, or instead of saying English language learners, we say students who are learning our language, or students who are learning English. These are subtle but profound changes, and I think as we progress in this work as a school and a district, that'll improve. One of the things that we're changing this following year with communicating data to parents is changing some of the labels on the data graphs. So while it may say a certain label on it from the district, when we share that with parents, we'll change that label slightly to be more people first, so that parents aren't identifying their kid by that label first. They're identifying them as a student and an important part of our school community, and then we look at that as kind of a secondary factor instead of the primary thing that defines who they are. All these things are very subtle, but I think that they make a big difference, and they send a really clear message to our school and our community about our inclusive nature and relying upon the diversity of all of us to help make our school the best possible place it can be. I think as we prepare them for a global economy, we have to prepare them for people who look, think, speak, and act differently from them. And so it's important even in first grade, second grade, third grade, for us to build that safety in that practice and that thinking moving forward.
So that's going to lead you to me. Hi, I'm Jay Colbert. The title on the page says I'm a deep equity coach. I know I have one other peer who trained with me in the building right now. I don't know if anybody else is here has been trained. Deep equity and diversity has been really great on working with us and to try to give us, help us discover and find that lens so we can make sure we don't marginalize students, which we have typically done in the past. I am a teacher. This is my 15th year in the district. I have served between first grade all the way up through middle school, and I have some of my peers in the building that I've had the opportunity to work with, some current employees, and actually a couple former parents, so hopefully they felt like I served their child well when they had them. I'm going to give you a few ideas for what we do in first grade. This is my 10th year in teaching first grade. I'm just saying that because there is that bias where a man teaching first grade is probably waiting for that fifth grade spot to open. And that's, while I have taught fifth grade a little bit here or there, most of my career has happily been in first grade. I love it. I love primary. And those who are primary teachers understand why, and those who aren't, you should check it out. Like I said, my ideas are going to be primarily for the K-2 population. I have a short video to show of one of my peers and something she's doing that I think is more applicable for 4th through 8th, maybe even high school, depending on how you adapt it and tweak it for your needs. You'll find a lot of exemplars on the district website for today of different things I had. I was trying to set a QR code or something for you so you could just shoot a picture and then you could look at some of the things I'm going to talk about, but they are there. When you have time, take a look at it. Things that I do, I am team teaching this year. I have a really awesome partner. She just does not like to go in front of you people, or any people, unless she has to. But her name is Adrienne Beam, and you might see her around. She's involved in a couple other things in the district right now. Things that we do in our classroom that we're trying to connect with our children is we do class interviews. Thank goodness we have technology now. We do them on the smart board. We take pictures of the children. Their classmates interview them. They get a chance to ask them questions, so they get to be unique. During that time, they get to ask them almost any question, and if you are a primary teacher, you know the questions can be kind of weird. And there can be kind of a pattern. This year's strange question that occurred over and over again until we gently nudged it out of the questioning is, what's your favorite part of your bedroom? And what does it look like? And kids in first grade will stare at you like, it has walls and a bed, and I have some toys. So we eventually nudged that out, but it's really cool because then the children have that opportunity to be asked questions about them, and they get to kind of be the shining star for, if only 10 minutes of that school day. We then turn around, print them off, and we put them into their personal readers so that the children can reread about themselves and about their friends. And we do partner reading and other activities like that. They can sit and talk with the buddy about what they read about, and there's usually smiles and giggles and laughter and all the things that go along with being 6 or 7. We also have our star students. A lot of people do this too, where we recognize a child. They get to bring a poster in from, that we supply for them from home. They can draw pictures on it. They can bring pictures in. They can bring some tools or toys or things that mean something to class and briefly talk about it. It hangs on a shelf or a wall, or some weird things have come in that I've had to like craft a temporary sitting device for so that they can really show off their work. And on the Fridays or the end of the weeks, we will then have the class write them letters. So they get to, and they write, we have a little bit of writing time, and they'll write letters to each other. They'll talk about things they like about them. They'll ask them if they have shared interests. And they'll just kind of have that extra bonding. We put that into a book-style form, and then we send it home with them, and then they take it home. We've had a lot of responses from parents that, oh, Bobby brought home his star student letters, and we sat down and read them tonight, and he loved them, and they also drew pictures for him. So it's a nice connection that we are hearing back from the parents, that this doesn't just go home and then find its way to the round file, as we like to call it, or file 13. That they go home, and some parents have told us their children actually have held on to it all the way through and into middle school before they just decided to let it go. So it's a nice thing to hear from those parents. Another thing we incorporated this year, as we all are moving towards SEL and being mind up and being mindful, is we, during our writing time, at least once a week, get out our mindful book, because we all know that we have all the tools we can't possibly memorize every single thing the district is handing us every single year. So you need a refresher. We take out the book and we talk about what our class complexion is looking like, either long range or short range, and what kind of needs the children are having, social, emotionally, or just gaps we're finding. And we will have writing prompts on the old school whiteboard, not on the smart board, and the children have an opportunity to write about that and then share it out. And we also then, of course, collect their notebooks, and we respond to it too, which the children like. A lot of times they see your question or your response, and they respond back to you. So those who don't use journaling that way, give it a thought. I'm sure most of you have. We are by no means the gurus of what we're doing. We're just trying to get the ball rolling. Lastly, the thing that we do in our classroom is a morning message. Once again, smart boards are awesome for that way. We have a big picture up in the morning and a special note for the children. Usually we'll have, just like they do at Cold Springs Middle School, sometimes a bit of funny question, just to kind of get the kids thinking that they can share out, or sometimes it'll be more for them to focus on themselves and their social emotional learning, and we'll share those out too. And the nice thing that we like to do is that when the kids share out, I'm sure if you've, some of us done number talks and stuff, we have the Me Too signal. We bring that over into any time we have a shared experience. Of course, this can be a little hard. Some kids want to hang 10. But this can be a little hard for primary kids, then we also do this too. And I think it's really powerful because when a child shares their thought or idea and they look around the room, we have 36 children this year, and they're seeing a bunch of these or these at them, that they know that they are part of a community. They don't just have a like or an interest or some personal experience. It's a shared experience that makes them feel like they are more than just one person in a crowd. We've done a couple of other activities in our professional development that we've done in the class, done with our teachers. We have one of our peers here today, and then we've turned around and it's been a tool that they can then walk away from and use in their classroom. One of them is called an I Am poem. I won't go into it. You have a description of it here, and all of the samples are available for you to look at through the district website, and I'm just making sure I'm not forgetting anything else. I'm going to stop now. We have about a 4-minute video of one of our 4th grade peers and something that she's doing to really promote that growth between her students and herself. Her name is Allie Hughes. Thank you.
See the best in you because your best is always enough.
Kai, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for having a school family that cares about one another.
Having a school family that cares about one another. Lily, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for resources that make me successful.
Resources that make you successful. All right, what are we good at? You guys are good at so many things. What are you good at? Trinity, what are you good at?
I'm good at going with new people on assignments that we get to share with other people.
Okay, going with different people, getting to know other people in our classroom. Kaylee, love, what are you good at?
I'm good at fractions.
You're good at fractions. Max, love, what are you good at?
Turning in my homework on time.
Turning in your homework on time. You are so good at that. What do we want to get better at? What are some things we want to get better at? We're good at a lot of things. We're grateful for a lot of things. So what are some things that we can better ourselves every day in? Chance.
We get better at facing you more.
Facing, making eye contact. Okay. Sophie.
I want to get better at asking more questions.
Asking more questions. Okay. So we do the 3 Gs every morning. And before we actually start, I say, may the best in me see the best in you, because your best is always enough. Because it's really important that they hear that coming from me as well as their teacher. And now they have started saying it with me. But the 3 Gs, basically my kids set a goal every morning about what they're grateful for, what they're good at, and what they want to get better at. So this has really changed our classroom climate. And it kind of evens out the playing field for all kids.
It helps us start our day with a positive note.
Start your day positively. Corday?
To add on, I think that like if we want to get better at something, maybe the class can help that person.
Personal statements are their personal goals that they're setting. And it's really about them and their day. And then the class statements, when they're setting like the class goal, have come about as we've seen certain struggles come up in class that students are struggling with, or maybe our class was struggling at recess to line up at the appropriate time and people weren't listening to the duty teacher. So that was something that I started modeling first. And I would say, you know, I would like our class to get better at doing these things, but they've kind of taken it upon themselves now to set goals for the class, and they hold each other accountable, which is really cool. And we call each other our school family, because that was something that we struggled with at the beginning of the year.
It can help us because if you it's giving you the confidence to say what you're good at, what you're grateful for, and what you want to get better at to all the 27 other people in the classroom.
I think I started doing it, I modeled it with myself, and then I had no kids are forced to share because there's some kids and they're just not comfortable with doing that yet. And then as they get used to the classroom community that we've built, they become more comfortable. So the first time I did it, I maybe had 1 or 2 kids for each of the Gs. And I would model it every day. And then now I don't even model it unless I notice something behaviorally or academically that I think we need to refocus on. It's really a 10-minute or 15-minute reminder every morning. That's really easy. And my kids love it.
I think it helps us. So when we come in, we get to have a positive mindset, and then so we can go through our class with a great attitude.
All right, so that is the end of our presentation. We thank you for your time. We hope you have a great day. We want to respect your time because I think you're supposed to be in passing right now. We've kind of bled into that. If you have any questions, you can email us or, I guess, email us. We'll be here for a little while longer, but I know you all have places to be. And we hope you have a fabulous day, and thank you.